And we are live. Welcome to another edition of DT Live. Welcome to another edition. Make sure I mute the stream. Okay. Alright. Hope everybody's doing well tonight. I know I didn't give you guys a big heads up on the stream. I decided about 2-3 hours ago I might do a stream tonight. Wanted to do something on the channel, and I was kind of taking the day off from doing anything on the channel. I had a lot of other stuff going on today, and I was like, you know what, I should do something on the channel, but I don't want to actually take the time to actually pre-record anything, having to edit video and then render video and then upload to YouTube and wait for the YouTube video to process. It's so time consuming, right? Pre-recorded production is bloat. So F it, let's live stream it instead. So that's what we're doing tonight. Of course, I'm going to hang out with you guys in the YouTube chat. Those of you that are hanging out on the DistroTube IRC channel over on the freenode network, I'll try to keep up with some of the chat going on over on IRC as well. In the YouTube chat, we had quite a few people here early. The meme is going too far, the bloat meme. Yeah, everybody loves that word. And being labeled as bloated goes back a little while. It's not like a recent meme. This bloat thing has kind of plagued us in the Linux community for a while. Everything is bloat. And it's subjective. You guys mentioned that, Mr. GFY. He's right. One person's bloat is another man's features. Yeah, living is bloat. Yeah, if you're a nihilist, I guess. Most of us, though, would consider living a feature. Yeah. Somebody mentioned maybe I should install Gentoo on the live stream instead. No, it's not going to be that long of a live stream. Though I could probably do a quick Gentoo install. The problem with the Gentoo install, though, right now, doing it on a live stream, is it involves a lot of typing, and I have my new ErgoDox EZ keyboard that I'm still struggling with. Actually, I'm getting pretty comfortable with it now, but still, it would make the Gentoo install kind of painful right now until I get a little more comfortable actually typing. And Primal Penguin, I can't even take the whole bloat thing seriously anymore. Yeah. You guys in the YouTube chat, how is the audio? Give me a yay or a nay on the audio before we get going too far. I don't have the pulse audio volume control up. I'm assuming all the audio levels are fine though. Otherwise, you guys probably would have been screaming at me by now. Yeah, Logan, where did you get a pic of me? Yeah. We all could stand to lose a few pounds. As a matter of fact, I've tried to spend a little more time this week in the gym. I'm a regular at the gym. I try to go to the gym 2-3 times a week. But in the last, say, 2 weeks especially, I've kind of made a new commitment. It seems like I do this every year, though. I kind of slack off in the winter, gain a little weight, gain an extra 10 pounds or whatever. And then in the summer, when it starts getting warm, I take things a little more seriously, work out a little more at the gym, but also at home. I get out on the street and, jog a little bit, jog 3-4 miles, a couple of times a week. And I'll drop a little weight. So this cycle has been going on with me for, 7 or 8 years now. That tends to be the pattern. Yeah, Mr. GFY, are you still running Parrot? It's quickly becoming a favorite of mine. Yeah, I'm sure Mr. GFY is still running Parrot. I'm not sure, Mr. GFY, do you have anything to do with the development of Parrot OS? I know you love Parrot. You're one of its biggest proponents. It's a great Debian-based distro, too. Great for you guys that want to try a pen testing distro, but maybe you're not crazy about Kali Linux. Yeah, the chat is bloated. It can be sometimes. I will say sometimes the chat's great. Sometimes the chat kind of gets off the rails a little bit. And Mr. GFY has an Arch Swag, Arch Strike, Black Arch hybrid. That's a lot of Arch-based distros. There's way too many Arch-based distros, though. I can understand why somebody would maybe make a hybrid of 3 existing Arch-based distros. We need to kind of get rid of some of those Arch-based distros and all those Ubuntu-based distros, too. There's just too many of them. Yeah, just add more Arch repos. Yep, sounds fine, audio's fine, yay. Das Audio is good. Okay. DT with them gains. Yeah, well, I have gained some weight, if you're talking about some gains. In the last, I would say last 2 years especially, I'm probably about 10 to 15 pounds heavier than I was about 2 years ago. I really lost a little weight. Before I started working out on a regular basis about 5 years ago, I weighed about 205, 210 pounds, very overweight, really couldn't exercise much. I had some back issues that were really preventing me from doing much. And then finally I got in the gym, made myself get in the gym. All my back problems went away. And of course, obviously, you start losing a little weight. You work out, and I got all the way down from like I said, I was almost 210, and I got down to around 178 or something. And now I've kind of gained a little bit of weight back here in the last year or so. I'd say a little bit of weight. I mean, I'm like 185, 190. And some of that is going to be muscle. It's hard to lift weights, 3-4 times a week and not put on some muscle as well. Yeah, bloat is killing your gains. Hey man, says Big Pod. How you doing, Big Pod? Yep. And you guys in the IRC chat. I didn't even let the guys in the IRC chat know I was streaming, so hopefully they know that they are live. Yeah. Steph Marino, there's a stream? Yeah, so we're talking about weight bloat. That is correct. Steph Marino, a second ago, was posting a screenshot of something. I don't know if I can share it with you guys here. Let me see if I can swap over to what he was trying to share in the IRC chat. I guess he was posting a little screenshot of his OpenBSD desktop. Very cool. OpenBSD. Now, Steph Marino is definitely a masochist. And he is living in the shell, apparently. The IRC client, though, looks very sexy. I like that terminal-based IRC client. Let's see, what kind of channels are you checking out in IRC? Of course, he's on the DistroTube channel. Looks like he's also on Chris Ware's channel, OpenBSD's channel, of course, Linux, programming, support. Huh. All right. Yeah, so Carl says, I'm working on making my distro again. This time my builds are working better since I'm using AWS instead of my own hardware. Very nice. Big Pod, everything is bloated if you look at it hard enough, just like every software has a bug if you look hard enough. Yeah, you're not going to have bug-free software. The idea that you're going to, like this utopia that some people have, if you code everything in C and keep to a strict line of code limit, there will be no bugs. There's always bugs. And to some extent, bugs are subjective. We were talking about how bloat is subjective. One man's bug is another man's feature, right? Many of us have posted what we thought were bugs over on GitHub or GitLab, and the developers say, hey, that's not a bug. That's a feature. Yeah, so Eddie is Fiction says, I've been lifting myself, but I'm gaining weight. Yeah, you're going to gain a little weight. Lifting weights, I mean, you can, especially early on. And also, it depends on how overweight you are. Like, if you're very overweight, you're going to drop a lot of weight fast. If you're not that overweight, you're probably going to gain weight lifting weights, if that makes sense. Especially, and some of this has to do with age, too. Young guys especially, like you see these 18 to 20-year-olds that join the military. If they go in very overweight, they're really out of shape, they come back and they slim down and they look like a totally different person. Same thing with the skinny guys, except the opposite. They usually put on a bunch of weight. Yeah, Ben says, I don't feel bloated by software. In my humble opinion, it's just software, no complaints. Yeah. And Dean Allen says, hey, Derek, dude, nice to see you again. All right. Good to see you, Dean. It is 12:37 a.m. here in England. Yeah, I'm keeping you up late. Well, if you have to, you can always catch it on the replay. Not sure what I'm going to do here on the stream this evening. Like I said, I just wanted to do something. Poured a glass of beer. Might hang out an hour, hour and a half. I don't know. Yeah, your keyboard looks like high-tech mittens. Yeah. And this, of course, will definitely be one of the topics this evening, is this keyboard. Let me go back to the right browser that I was trying to capture here. Yeah, so the ErgoDox EZ. I've had it, I got it late Friday evening. So I've 3 days. 3 days in, and that very first day, just after a couple of hours, you know, I could barely type anything. You guys saw my ErgoDox video. If you guys watched that, I could barely use this thing. It's such a strange keyboard. After 3 days, I can kind of type stuff now. Like, it's not that bad. I chatting with folks in IRC earlier, or I might chat with some of you guys in the YouTube chat, and I can actually type now. I will occasionally hit the wrong key. Especially, I'm still hitting sometimes backspace instead of space because I still have that weird layout where the thumb key, let's see if I can show the thumb key here. That thumb key is actually the space bar. The one right behind it is the backspace. They're too close together, and sometimes I'm typing, and after every word, of course, you're hitting space. Well, after every word, I'm hitting backspace. So all I get is, instead of a sentence, it's just this one big, gigantic word of jumbled letters. So it's not happening as much. I will say also that the CEO of ZSA, which is the company that makes ErgoDox, actually contacted me by email. He sent me an email late last night. I read it this morning. He saw my video, and I guess he put 2 and 2 together who I was, so he got my email from, I guess, my order. So he sent me a rather lengthy and nice email saying he loved the video, and if I had any questions, if I needed help with anything, he explained, you know, why he did some of the stuff in his layout, which is the default layout for ErgoDox. Excuse me. So he's a really nice guy. He even offered, if I didn't like the Kale copper switches, you know, he'd send me some different switches and whatnot. And he basically said that the ErgoDox company really tries to be more of a community kind of company. Like the people that buy this kind of keyboard, you know, they try to keep in touch with them. So seems like a great company to support. I've been kind of impressed with the product, and at least with the CEO, and emailing back and forth a couple of times today. He seems like a cool guy as well. And back to the chat for a second. Well, thanks for the super chat there, Grayson. Bloat doesn't matter for GNOME 3.32. I need to use a magnifier in my desktop that tiling window managers do not have. I'm visually impaired. Well, that is true. Tiling window managers, of course, are just window managers, and they typically don't have extra features like that, especially for anybody that is visually impaired or has any kind of disability. You know, you're usually not going to have like e-readers or anything like that associated with them. Well, what you have to do is you have to install third-party applications, right, with things like i3 and Awesome, where the big desktop environments like GNOME and KDE should have stuff like that, of course, baked in. But again, one man's bloat is another man's features. A lot of people would consider that magnifier as bloat because they don't need it. I actually would not consider that bloat. We had this discussion the other day when I did my video about is bloat just a meme. I think a lot of people do label like feature-rich software as bloat when it's really not. Like LibreOffice. I don't consider LibreOffice as bloated. It has a ton of features. 90% of the features in LibreOffice I don't know how to use. I'll probably never use. But that's not bloat. They're there because there are people that actually need it. You know, people that actually need those powerful functions of a word processor or spreadsheet or whatnot. I just don't use them. But it's not bloat, right? If it really bothered me about the install size of LibreOffice, I could install, you know, smaller stuff, you know, Abbey Word or GNUmeric or something like that. Yeah, they look like the mittens. Yeah, the mittens. Yeah, the split thing with the keyboard is kind of strange, but I like it. They're right as far as it being ergonomic because you can spread your hands out. You can kind of, you know, get shoulder width apart with your hands instead of a traditional keyboard. I still got the traditional keyboard out to demonstrate this, where you're really tight, right? You're really tight in. You're kind of scrunched in. So it does feel better. I will say it feels better sitting here typing on this. It's just strange because I'm not hitting the right keys. Once I start hitting the right keys, it's all going to make sense, I think. Give me just a second, guys. All right. back to the chat for a second. Yeah, so No Name is saying hi to DT from Russia. Very cool. Bloatcast. Yeah. Yeah, I should rename the channel, right? Bloat-tube. That's what I should have done just for this stream. I could have even changed the OBS overlay instead of DT for the logo, BT. Why didn't I think of that before? If I'd given myself enough time, I might have done that. Yeah, DT, what laptop could you recommend for maximum composition with Linux? For maximum composition, I'm not sure what you're asking there. As far as laptops that work with Linux, I've never owned a laptop that really didn't work with Linux. Well, I say that. Wi-Fi was an issue 10 years ago. Wi-Fi is usually not a problem now. Most distros, the user-friendly distros, they have all the proprietary drivers for your Wi-Fi chips. And most of the time, they actually are not in any way really helpful, and they make your usage harder. Yeah, as you said, they are lame. Oh, that was Big Pod talking to Ben. Oh, the screen froze for a second here. Hold on a second, guys. Not sure why this has been happening to me lately, but I do know how to fix it without having to kill OBS, which is what I did on the last stream. I'm not sure why that happens. All I do is I go back into OBS and change the video format from like YV12 or YU12 to one of the other ones, and then just go back to the one I wanted. But that has been happening a lot with my my Panasonic camera, capturing it here in OBS. I'll get to a point and it'll just freeze. The scene in OBS freezes. The camera preview is still fine. It's just for some reason OBS kind of craps out on me. This was not a problem on my last machine, and it was an Arch-based distro, Manjaro, you guys know, so it was really should have been, you know, same kernel, same drive. Well, it may not be the same drivers as far as graphics drivers, but that shouldn't matter. Same version of OBS. Not sure what's causing that, but usually it'll happen once, and when I do the little trick where I change the video format, we're usually good. I don't think it'll happen again, but we'll see. Again, I'm not sure what's actually causing that little issue, but it's a minor gripe. It's a shame it comes up on a live stream. If I was pre-recording something, of course, I would see, oh, the camera freezes, I could go back, refresh the video, and start recording again. You guys would never see me freeze up like that. But again, pre-recorded production is bloat, so trying to get away from that today. The IRC is blowing up today. Evan says, hello, YouTube. Evan is one of our regulars in the IRC channel. So is Marlon. We have Devilish Type also in there. You guys that are not hanging out on the DistroTube channel over on Freenode, what are you waiting for? We actually have a pretty good crowd that hangs out there most days. Usually about 40 to 50 people are hanging out there, and there is some chat that goes on there. Those of you that think you might enjoy chatting with other people about Linux and sometimes just life in general. Yeah, thanks for the super chat, Robo Nuggy. Yeah, too much maximum composition causes freezing. That's what. Yeah, I need to slow down on the maximum composition. I mean, how much composition is bloat? Is there a limit? I missed some of the chat here. Yeah, I would not recommend an Optimus laptop for Linux. It's not fun. That's Ben Fitzpatrick there. That's good to know, Ben. So I'm assuming that the drivers give you a problem. And Big Pod says on the latest Ubuntu, it's no problem. Yeah, but Ubuntu things typically work, you know. But Ben, I don't think he uses Ubuntu. I know for a while he was a Gentoo guy, and these days I think he's doing Arch. And sometimes getting those drivers on those distros, yeah, he's right, can be a bit of a hassle. Yeah, Mr. GFY, run some logging tools the next time you stream. I don't stream that often, so I doubt I'll remember that But it does happen just me pre-recording something, so I don't actually have to be live streaming to check it out. But like I said, it probably won't happen again during this stream, now that it happened the one time and then I refreshed the scene here in OBS. But for some reason, yeah, that very first time, I guess what I could have done to preempt that is maybe do some pre-recorded video before live streaming and get my camera to freeze, refresh it, and then start the live stream. That way I get the one freeze out of the way. Yeah, IRC, never been my fancy. That's a shame. I think you'd enjoy the conversation over there. I'd get in the IRC chat, but I'm too lazy. Well, depending on the distro you're on, you probably already have an IRC chat client installed. It probably already automatically connects to the freenode network. Just saying. Chances are Hex Chat is installed on your distro if it came with a graphical environment already pre-installed. Unless you're on a Plasma distro, Conversation with a K is almost always installed. It's a great IRC client. Yeah, the best IRC client was asked by Blank Expression. HexChat seems to be the most popular. Whether it's the best or not, I don't know. HexChat and Conversation with a K are probably your best bet if you want a graphical IRC client. If you prefer a terminal-based IRC client, what I'm using is ERC. This is ERC. WeChat is another very popular terminal IRC client. I've used WeChat in the past. Both of them, fine. No problem with either one. You have a lot of options, though, for IRC. Yeah, let's see. Gentoo is just time-consuming, says Telsaurus. Yeah, Gentoo can certainly be a daily driver. I'm sure it could. And Mr. GFY, apparently freenode kicked him out. Are you using anything, you using like a VPN or something? Because I know freenode does have a problem letting folks in using that. I know you do need to be registered with freenode, and I do know there is a workaround where you can get in, but it is a hassle. Yeah, the latest Ubuntu installer installs the NVIDIA proprietary drivers automatically. If you tick on that third-party driver install, yeah, it should. Hey, DT, you ever try NeoVim? I've installed it, but NeoVim, I mean, what's the difference? NeoVim and regular Vim? They look and function exactly the same. My config works the same in both. I'm not exactly sure why I would run NeoVim. Not sure. I mean, I know it's a newer project, probably less legacy code, but I don't see any real advantage as far as an end user using NeoVim rather than Vim. It's all the same. One's as good as the other. So yeah, Hunter1, I'm already in your server. Very cool. Let's see, a couple of folks have joined while we've been on the air. Looks like, yeah, Money King joined. Who else has joined? Yeah, Eddie is Fiction joined us. Yeah, Soul Loken. Hope I pronounced that right. A few of you guys are now in the IRC. Hey, DT, getting the chat split for IRC and YouTube would be nice. Yes, it would have been nice. And I think one time on a stream recently, I actually did that. But I don't think I have that scene saved. I don't know why I didn't save it, but I did have the two windows split on screen. Oh well. We'll just roll with this for now. But it might be something I do for the next time I do one of these. Because I'm pretty sure I did have a split view of both chats at one point. But maybe I imagine that. Let's see. Yeah, Blank Expression, DT. You kick behind for answering our questions. Thanks, buddy. Well, I'll try to keep up with the chat a little bit. Of course, there's a lot of you in the chat, so obviously I'm going to miss a lot of it. Especially when I'm trying to keep up with 2 different chats going on. And we may get into some topics. You know, obviously I was talking about my ErgoDox earlier, which we should get into. I may leave the chat for a minute and talk about the ErgoDox again. So my ErgoDox experience. So the layout for the ErgoDox, the default one, you know, I stayed on it for about 2 hours, made that video the other day, and told you guys as soon as that video was over, I was getting rid of the default layout. This is the default layout. What did I change? The super key. The super key is the mod key in every tiling window manager. Having the super key in such a weird place, one of the thumb cluster keys, and it's one that is kind of hard to hit. I didn't like that at all. So I put the super key back here. Also, the arrow keys. I didn't like having left and right on one keyboard. I didn't like having up and down on the other keyboard. I also didn't like having up before down, because on the Vim keys, J is down, K is up, you know, the reverse. So what I did is I put all 4 arrow keys together in the proper order right here in this bottom row. I also got rid of these annoying keys here, which permanently switch you to layer 1. Layer 1 would be where you get all your special characters. And because I was new to the keyboard, I was constantly hitting this key trying to type T, or this one trying to type Y. And all of a sudden, I'm typing parentheses and pipe symbols and everything because I had placed myself in layer 1 by accident. So I got rid of these keys. I really didn't need them. So I changed the layout a little bit. It wasn't a drastic change. If I do a search, because I think they save everybody's layouts online. So if I do a search for DT, and I think I called it DT's QWERTY layout. And I must have hit something here. Again, new keyboard, but I must have hit some key combination to get that to come up. Let's see, is DT QWERTY layout here? Maybe they don't save them forever. It was here for a while, though. Maybe I didn't spell it right. You know what? I think I did all caps for QWERTY. Let's try that. Yeah, still not here, but you guys get the idea. I changed I changed some of this. I put the arrow keys over here, put the super key back, so I've got Shift, Super, and Alt all in the standard places. Control is still not here. Control is when you hold Z, it's actually Control. When you hold Z and hold it down, it's Control, because this needs to be a layer key. This is one of the keys where you switch layers. Just hold that key and now you can type, you know, the pipe symbol and the parentheses and brackets and everything. So that's some of the minor changes to the layout. I didn't want to do it like a big change. You know, I don't want to change anything until it's a problem. I knew that super key was a problem, and the only other thing I know for sure that's causing me a problem, that backspace. That backspace is causing me a problem because I hit it sometimes trying to type space. I need to change that. What I might do is put the tab key here, because accidentally hitting the tab key won't hurt anything. And I'm not going to hit the backspace by accident that often because it's right behind the enter key. You're not hitting enter that often, but you're hitting space all the damn time typing. I'm constantly hitting that backspace key. So catch up with some of the chat. Let's see. While you guys are typing, have a drink. Poured myself a glass of beer. A little early for beer. Normally I try not to drink before about 9 at night. I'm one of those guys. I've got my own, you know, set of rules for everything. But I was like, yeah, I'm doing a stream earlier than normal. I'll have a glass of beer earlier than normal. Maybe I'll get to bed a little early today too. Yeah, is IRC bloated? That is a great question. IRC is one of the oldest chat protocols that people still use. It dates back to like the 80s, I think, late 80s. So IRC is about as unbloated as you can get. IRC, I mean, if I go back to my IRC client, now this is a terminal client, but graphical clients like HexChat and Conversation are not much different. It's plain text, right? There's no video, nobody's posting images, there's no emojis, there's none of that. So this is Just beautiful text. Beautiful, unbloated, minimal text. I love it. I could never like hang out on something like Discord again, you know, for chat. This is where you want to be. Yeah, so Big Pod is telling Ben that he's using Arch. It's pretty easy to set up, really. Follow the wiki. Yeah, Arch is not bad. The Arch install is pretty straightforward, actually. I mean, you set up your partitions, you know, use something like fdisk or cfdisk or whatnot. Then, you know, run the, what is it, the packstrap command where you install the base system. And that's really about it. I mean, there's a couple of config files, like in /etc. You know, you might have to, you know, play with the host file or something. But really, it's like half a dozen things you really have to do. And you're done in 15, 20 minutes. Now, that's for just the Arch install, though. We're not talking about afterwards. You do have to install the X server, the X graphical server, Xorg. And then you have to install the desktop environment or window manager of your choice, all the applications you want to run. That takes a little time. Unless you're one of those people that has your own install script. You already know all the programs you plan on installing. You've already written a script for it, and you just run that script, right? So, but even if you don't have a script, I mean, you kind of know the programs that you use on a daily basis. Like I could do a base Arch install, and I know after 15 minutes I get the base installed. I know I need Xorg, and I need a window manager, and let's say Xmonad is the window manager I choose. What else do I need? I need a terminal, ST. I have already got my ST builds actually on GitLab. I don't even need to install ST from the Arch repos. Matter of fact, if I was doing DWM as the window manager, I wouldn't need to install the window manager either. Actually, I could get a lot without even touching the Arch repos using the suckless utilities. Other than that, Vim is already installed, my text editor, by default in Arch. Really, I need to install maybe 25 to 30 programs to be up and running. Now, as you use it, you know, I would come across things I don't use on a regular basis. Oh, yeah, I need that program. But just to get up and running, you know, the things I use on a daily basis, yeah, 25, 30 programs. And, of course, all their dependencies. But you don't have to worry about the dependencies. The package manager is going to take care of that itself. Yeah, Dean Allen says he's a die-hard IRC user here since 1998. Yeah, that was about the time IRC was kind of at the height of its popularity, and then it kind of died after the late 90s, really. Once we got to 2000, you know, other kind of internet messaging clients started to appear. ICQ was kind of big for a while. Then you had like all the AOL messengers and Yahoo messengers, and a lot of people just got off of IRC, but IRC did not go anywhere. Mainly because of Linux and free and open source software. So many people host IRC channels over on Freenode that are free and open source software related. So I think there's something like 100,000, more than 100,000 regular users of the Freenode network. So people do use IRC. It's not dead by any means. But it's not something that the public really knows about, the general public anyway. It's mainly just for us nerds. Yeah, DT, have you ever tried tmux? I have tried it a little bit. I've never really tried to use it that much though, because I use tiling window managers anyway, and tiling inside the terminal. I'm not sure if it would really provide me much advantage than just opening up some terminals and tiling each individual terminal. So I've never really been a tmux or screen user, either one of those terminal multiplexers. But I've ended up in tmux plenty of times because some distros install it by default. I'm trying to catch up on the chat here, guys. I know I missed some of it. Yeah, Mr. GFY, I hate keyboard switching layers. Yes, you and me both. Yeah, DT, you need to do a review for Windows Terminal, says BigPod. I would love to review the Windows Terminal. Looks like I froze again, guys. Well, I didn't think it would happen again, but it looks like it did. I'm not sure. what's causing that. I may have to check the logs later. OBS does write some error logs, actually. I might dig around in that later and see what's causing the problem there. Yeah, it's strange. So I've never had that problem where a camera would freeze and with a scene in OBS. I've had a problem where the camera would flicker. I've had problems where the picture didn't look great. You would get these like white lines occasionally, or you get a flicker. But usually that is the CPU struggling, or sometimes it is a case of you've got too much going on the USB ports that everything's attached to. You know, you're kind of overloading the USB controller that you got everything plugged into. I don't think that's a case with this, though, because the only thing really plugged into USB ports where that camera is plugged in, well, I froze again as I'm talking about that. Man, I hope that doesn't become a big problem. You know what? Let's change video format. I've been in YV12. Let's switch to YU12 for a little while. If this becomes an issue, though, I do have, of course, the other camera, and I can move it around and put it in a proper spot. Yeah, Red Robbo. Yeah, the freezing is likely an Arch update. Get onto the tumbleweed. I don't think it's Arch causing the... Well, I mean, I say it's not Arch causing the problem, but whatever the problem would be in Arch, it would be a problem in tumbleweed, too. Tumbleweed is a bleeding edge rolling distribution as well. Yeah, but the problem there, like it froze kind of quickly 2 or 3 times in a row there. I haven't seen it do that bad, pre-recording stuff. So that's weird. So the live stream may be the problem, because it was a real problem the last time I live streamed too. What was that, a week or 2 ago? And it's not this kind of problem when I pre-record stuff though. Yeah, Big Pod says it might be OBS or FFmpeg problem. That's what I suspect it's a different... It's an update with OBS, probably. OBS has updates pretty regularly. And for whatever reason, the new OBS maybe doesn't like some of my scenes here in OBS. Sometimes you get that. You get these scenes that you create in OBS that cause you problems. Especially if you got a lot of complicated stuff going on in them. My scenes in OBS actually they may look a little complicated to you guys watching on YouTube, but there's really not that much stuff going on in these scenes. Back to the IRC chat just for a second. Oh, well, I accidentally hit the wrong key here in Awesome. Went to the wrong desktop. Yeah, Marlin, I'm on Gwix, Radeon, Chrisware, and Parabola. I'm assuming those are the channels he's following over on the Freenode network. Yeah, over on the Freenode network myself, the channels I'll log into occasionally are the Linux channel, #Linux, HexDSL, you guys know the HexDSL YouTube channel. I check out his IRC chat every now and then, sometimes chat with those guys and their channel. Other than that, programming language channels, sometimes I go if I need help for something. Haskell has a very active channel, those of you needing help with your Xmonad stuff. The Suckless has a channel, those of you who have questions about the Suckless software. And thanks for the super chat, Stephen Anderson. Appreciate that. Stephen, did you have a question? You didn't leave one in the super chat, but if you got something you want to ask, I'll try to be on the lookout for it. What do you like about ST? If you're asking me what I like about the ST terminal, it works. It works as good as Xterm, URXVT, and Termite, all 3 I've used before on long-term basis. I would be fine with any of the 4. I'm not sure as far as advantages. I will say this. URXVT, which is a fine terminal emulator, is also one of the worst rendering strange Unicode characters. So that ST, I've never had anything in ST that just didn't render properly. Like, you can give it any kind of font, any kind of Unicode that you want. It's going to display those characters just fine. URXVT, not the case. Xterm is great, actually. Xterm is actually one of the best terminals out there, but many people would label Xterm as bloated because it's a rather hefty program. Yeah, what are you using as the encoder? For the stream, I actually should check that out. I'm pretty sure I'm using... let me double check it here. Yeah, VAAPI. Of course, that's FFmpeg behind the scenes doing that. So the VA API. Yeah, and the Russia. I hope I pronounced that name right. I probably didn't. I use Terminator. Terminator is actually a nice terminal emulator as well. Yeah, so Tyrodicus. Hey man, how are you doing today? I am doing just fine. How are you, sir? Yeah, Arch Linux is the most friendly IRC channel, says Alan. And I wanted to emphasize that, says Alan. Don't go over there to the Arch Linux IRC channel. If they are mean to you and tell you to RTFM, remember, DT did not say go over there. Alan told you guys to go there. Yeah, Red Robbo, yeah, appreciate the super chat. Start the new fancy mouse fund to go with that keyboard. Yes, now that I have this just crazy, ridiculous keyboard, I really need some kind of crazy mouse to go along with it. Just a standard mouse, you know, just... It doesn't make sense. But you know what? Now that I have the ErgoDox EZ, I actually don't need a mouse because layer 2 of the ErgoDox is just mouse functions using the keyboard. And that's something I want to get into a little more. I haven't spent that much time with it in the last couple of days, but just trying to use the keyboard as the mouse, maybe. Some days what I might do is just take the keyboard, or the mouse actually, off of the desk and force myself to use the keyboard as a mouse. Could be fun. By the way, you guys notice when I changed that camera, the video format, I changed it from YV12 to YU12. We're not freezing anymore. At least we haven't for the last few minutes. That might be the problem. We'll see. We'll keep the stream going for a little while, but if we don't have any other issues, that is a good sign that maybe YU12 is the video format I should use with that camera. And, you know, I say that, you guys, especially newer to Linux users, you'll run into these kinds of problems. Like I just ran into this problem with my camera while live streaming. Not a big deal. Don't get frustrated. You know what? I changed the settings, and we'll see if this works. If it doesn't, I'll try something else. If it's not the video format, you know, and maybe it's, again, what Big Pod said in the chat. It's a version of OBS that's not playing well with me. You know what? I can always just roll back to a previous version of OBS, or maybe try the app image version of OBS because I'm using OBS from the repos. Like, you can kind of work things out eventually on your... You just change things. You just play around with stuff. Eventually, you'll get something working. You'll figure out what the problem is. And it's kind of the mindset you have to have when you run Linux. It's a little bit different than a lot of Windows users where, you know, something breaks, you take it to Best Buy, you take it to the Geek Squad. You know, I got a virus here, can you... No, we don't do that here in Linux. We fix our problems. And most of the time, matter of fact, 99% of the time, you will fix your own problems if you try. It's very rare I come across a problem I just can't get working. Very rare, actually. I can't think of one recently that I've had an issue where, you know, I couldn't fix the problem myself. And back to the chat for a second. But yeah, Red Robbo, I'm definitely going to look into some new mouse. I don't know what. I haven't given it that much thought. But a lot of you guys were so excited about the new keyboard. You guys want to see how I progress with the keyboard. You want to keep up with my progress. I'm going to keep all you guys updated on the progress with the keyboard as well. So don't worry about that. But yeah, we may play around with some fancy mice. Maybe do a trackball. Somebody in the IRC chat was actually recommending a trackball. I've thought about that. Maybe doing something like that. I don't know. Some of you guys were telling me I should try out maybe a vertical mouse. Yeah, we could do that. Yeah, Juris, I was talking about URXVT doesn't handle Unicode characters that well. He says URXVT does not work. Haha. Okay. On some things it really doesn't. URXVT, for being such a popular terminal emulator, because it does some things well, but there's some things, you're right, it's kind of broken. It's probably my least favorite of the 4 terminal emulators I told you that I've used long term. Termite's great. I like Termite. Xterm, I know Xterm is bloated, but Xterm is not bad for a terminal emulator. NST has given me no problems either, so. Have you tried Alacrity? I have installed it. I've played with it a little bit, but not enough to really say I've done much with it. Yeah, Steven Anderson says a super chat was given to help the channel. Thanks for asking if I had a question. No problem, Steven. And thanks again for that super chat. Yeah, the only bloat I hate is web browser bloat. Yeah, that's really, when I talk about bloat, the only one that really gets me angry, you guys have probably seen this over the past few months on the channel, the modern web. It just makes me angry. So much about the web makes me angry. Web development, modern web browsers, just there's so much going on there. And part of it is just the modern web, as far as it's so many websites now are not just trying to display HTML and displaying a web page. They're trying to be web applications, right? So it's like we're getting away from desktop clients for everything, and we're just going to shove it all into the browser. You know, Chrome basically has become our operating system, you know. No pun intended. Of course, there's a Chrome OS, but in a lot of ways, your browser, Firefox and Chrome, have become the operating system. And I don't like that. I think that's a dangerous trend. Yeah, everyone should use KVM for virtualization in Linux. Yeah, KVM is not bad. I've used it a little bit in the past. I tend to stick with VirtualBox because I've used it forever. But KVM, of course, is fine too. Of course, everything's kind of baked into the Linux kernel when you're using something like KVM. So that's the big advantage there. One of the things that's kept me on VirtualBox over the years is improvements in VirtualBox. Like, VirtualBox is so much better than it was 5 years ago, and night and day better than it was 10 years ago. But that's really with all virtualization programs. Because 10 years ago, you know, virtual machines were really a niche kind of thing. You know, maybe you ran a VM to test out a distro, but really it was more like for server stuff. You know, people ran virtual machines as, you know, their own containers or jails or whatever. But now it's like developers even develop their distros with VMs in mind now. Some of them actually develop their distros in a VM. Yeah, 4 gigabytes is comfortable on my older machine, says Telcerus. Yeah, 4 gigabytes is just fine for Linux. As far as the RAM, I say it's just fine. It would be nice to have 8. 8 would be better, but 4 gigs is fine. I don't think you're going to find a distro that won't run on 4 gigs of RAM. I don't think it exists. So, I lost some of the chat here, guys. Sorry. Yeah, a lot of the chat, actually. If I scroll back for a second. Yeah, Big Pod tests different encoders. Yeah, that might be the problem. Yeah, you think VA API would be a problem? I wouldn't think, but it may be. We'll see. I actually feel pretty confident that the video format for the video capturing the camera here might have been the problem. Since I changed to YU12. Yeah, not a problem. We'll see, though. I'll feel more confident if I stream for another hour and the camera never freezes. Then I'll feel a little better about the situation. Of course, I'm not going to play around with anything until I see the problem happen again. I don't want to cause another problem. Yeah, Alan says he uses Chromium. Yeah, Chromium is free and open source software. Yeah, Big Pod. I use Office Suite in the browser, yeah. So you use Office 365, I'm assuming. And that's part of the problem, is so many people now have to use things like Office 365 and Google Docs and all this stuff, instead of having a standalone desktop client for an Office suite. Firefox and Chrome, they're your Office suite, and that's not what those browsers should be doing. That's part of the bloat. That's part of the bloat with web, and that's part of the bloat with the web browsers themselves. But I'm going to end up going off on a rant. So, yeah, Mr. GFY, you prefer VMware or QEMU? Yeah, QEMU is nice. VMware, I've never used. It's not free and open source software for one thing, so. Not a big fan of VMware, the company, either. They've done some questionable things in the past few years. Yeah, I've gotten distros to run on 500 megabytes of RAM. A little slow, but some work, says Mr. GFY. Yeah, I've gotten some distros to run on as little as 256. You're going really minimal window managers. For a good functional window manager that can run on very little RAM, JWM actually is one of the best you can find. Joe's Window Manager. It's kind of like OpenBox, but you can get that thing to run 100 megs of RAM. Maybe a little less if you strip things down even further. Hey DT, have you tried any programs like Ripcord? I haven't. It's a C++ desktop client for Discord and Slack. Okay, that sounds cool. I don't... not a Slack user, and I have Discord, but I really just use it if I'm doing a game live stream, a gaming live stream. Like if I wanted to chat with people in game, I have Discord installed, but I don't hang out on Discord. So I doubt I'll ever use Ripcord. Yeah, David says that I'll admit that collaborative editing in Google Docs is actually really useful. I'm sure it is. But couldn't Google just have a standalone desktop client for Google Docs? Why does that have to be done in Chrome? And that's where I was going with that. Google Docs, I'm sure, is a fine product. DistroTube, have you tried TinyCore? I installed TinyCore once on the channel in a VM. It was a struggle, actually, installing TinyCore in a VM. That was one of the hardest distros to get running in a VM I think I ever tried. Mainly because, as the name implies, TinyCore, there is not a lot to that distro. I don't even think they have like a real repository or anything. It's mainly designed to be run as a live disk. So, and the camera did freeze again, so it's not the video format, I don't think. So, Well, I think we narrowed that down, Big Pod. I don't think it's the camera's video format, whether it's YU12 or YV12. We still got the freezing. The next thing I'm going to try, I think, obviously not right now while I'm streaming, but I may pull down the app image for OBS. See how that works. It may just be OBS from the repository. Let's see. I'm going to actually look in OBS for a second here. Some of my settings. Of course, the camera froze, guys. I do apologize. I'm playing with OBS. Give me just a second. That is interesting, though, that the camera froze as soon as I hit the settings menu in OBS. Let me try that again. So I'm going to hit the file menu here in OBS. Click settings. Did I freeze? Yes, I did. All right. Now that's interesting there. I think it is something to do with OBS. I don't think it's a FFmpeg problem. I don't think it's the encoder. It's not the video format. I think there's something buggy with OBS. At the top of OBS, like any other program, you've got File, Edit, View, you know, the menu at the top. And when I click File and go to Settings, as soon as the Settings menu pops up, the camera freezes. That's strange. I don't know why that would cause, you know, what's going on. And it's freezing again. You know what? This may just be one of those streams where we try to fix a bug. Anyway, I don't want to get off on this, but that is interesting. That's strange that that caused that problem. Check your cable connection, yeah. And I thought that might be the problem. Everything is plugged in correctly. Again, this is not the first time this has happened. This happened on the stream a couple of weeks ago, and it has happened a couple of times when I pre-record stuff. Although not this bad. It happens more when I live stream. I don't know why. Yeah. And Richard Addison has the solution. Sudo reboot. I've done that before on a stream before. I have killed the stream logging out. I've killed the stream rebooting. This is not that kind of situation. Because I have an extra camera, right? But I have had some streams where the stream really just completely crashed on me and I had to reboot. Yeah, I'm kind of curious. You know, I may change out the cables though, just to make sure it's not like a short in the cable or anything. But I don't know. It's a problem with OBS, I think. Yeah, and Arthur has the solution. Sudo rm rf. Yeah, I would have some other issues if I ran that command. I'm not sure if Arco Linux is one of those distros, though, that disables that command. Most distros won't let you run that command these days, without at least giving you a warning. Like in Ubuntu and other user-friendly distros, you try to sudo rm rf your root directory, it'll give you a warning that you're an idiot. And then it'll tell you if you really want to do this, type this command, and it'll give you a little bit longer version of sudo rm rf with a couple of weird flags to throw in behind it. And then it'll let you wipe out your root directory. Go back to the IRC chat for a second. Yeah, Noobzilla says, "Hi, Mr. DistroTube. How you doing, Noobzilla? The trackball, the thumb one will F your hands." Okay, well, I won't get that one. Kitty is pretty cool for terminal emulators. Yeah, you guys have recommended Kitty to me. Yeah, VAAPI might mess up sometimes. Maybe go for just running with the CPU. The Threadripper is a beefy enough CPU. I might could get by with just using the CPU encoding. Yeah, Marlon says he used to have issues recording with VAAPI sometimes. Yeah, I might play with the encoder. Not obviously not streaming, but maybe if I record anything tomorrow, I may try a different encoder. And if I try a different encoder and the problem goes away, we'll know it's the encoding. If I try a different encoder and the problem continues, then, you know, we got to find another problem. Again, it could just be that this version of OBS might be a problem for me. Yeah, try BYOBU, DT. That was Mr. GFY over in the DistroTube IRC channel. Okay, so some of you guys have been asking me about Awesome Window Manager. I've been on Awesome like 2 weeks, and maybe a little longer than 2 weeks. I made the one video about Awesome Window Manager on day one. I was switching to Awesome, and I haven't done that much with it. I've lived in it the whole time, but I haven't needed to change much. The default configs in Arco Linux Awesome were okay for me, other than it had a ton of key bindings to programs that I either don't want installed, or if they're already installed, I'm removing. So other than changing the key bindings for all the programs I use, but like the standard key bindings to handle the window manager itself, moving things, to different monitors and everything, just kept the same. So I really haven't done anything with Awesome Window Manager. The other thing is, now I probably won't do much more with Awesome Window Manager, at least for a few days, is because I need to figure out exactly what I want to do as far as key bindings. None of my standard key bindings I had been using are going to be the same now because of this new keyboard. On my old configs, if you guys have ever pulled down any of my configs from my GitLab page, you will notice that on a standard keyboard with a keypad, most of my program key bindings involved the numeric keypad. Super 1 through 9 had its own set of applications that would open. Super Shift 1 through 9 had its own set of applications that it would open. Super Control 1 through 9 had another group of applications it could open. I don't have a numeric keypad on the ErgoDox. I say I don't have a numeric keypad. It is, you have to switch to a different layer to get to the numeric keypad, but Super is on layer 0. The numeric keypad is on a different layer. I can't use any of those key bindings. So I'm going to have to change all my key bindings, and I was going to take the easy way out. Let me get back to the configurator here. Hyper. Hold up a second. Let me make sure I'm recording the right. Okay. So I was going to take the easy way out here. There are two keys on the ErgoDox. Hyper, which is Alt, Shift, Control, plus Super, all in one key. Not a key combination you could type on a normal keyboard. And the Meh key, M-E-H, is Alt, Shift, plus Control, all in one key. And I was like, because those keys obviously will not conflict with anything else, they're not a typical key combination you could type on a normal keyboard, I'll just remap all my key bindings using the Hyper key and the Meh keys. And I did that. I changed my config in Awesome. I didn't push it to GitLab yet. I haven't pushed any of my Awesome configs to GitLab, because right after I did that and I started using it, it works fine for me. But then I thought about, eventually some of you guys are going to pull down my configs from GitLab. You're not going to have Hyper and Meh. You're not going to be able to type, what is it? Super, Alt, Shift, Control, plus another key, 5 keys, for key bindings in your tiling window manager. It's just not possible. So basically, my configs are going to be useless to everyone that doesn't have an ErgoDox EZ. So I'm going to have to think about how I want to do my key bindings so that my configs are still useful to you guys. Because the easy way out for me would be just to use Hyper and Meh. It's like, nah, I'm not going to do that. All right, back to the YouTube chat for just a second. Yeah, no 10 key, gasp. Well, you do have a 10 key. All I need to do is that pinky key here, either pinky key, but really you need this one. Now we're on layer 1, which has a 10 key. It's just right here. So I have to hold the pinky here, and now I have a numeric keypad here. The problem is, when I hold that, my super key on layer 0 is no longer here. I mean, I have to layer, then have a super key, then have the numeric keypad, and then I have to get back out of layer 1 back to layer 0. That's too many steps. So I'm not going to involve the numeric keypad in any of my key bindings with the ErgoDox. All right. Yeah, I'm not a person who fights for control of software because I don't believe that software can control you, says Big Pod. That's pretty deep there, Big Pod. It's kind of philosophical there. He says he's not a proponent of FOSS software anyway, free and open source software. Yeah, a lot of people, though, that use free and open source software don't even really know anything about free and open source software as far as the movements behind them. They just know the software is good, and, you know, I would say probably 95% of people that use Linux don't care at all about the free software movement or the open source software movement. They just know, you know, their Windows had a virus. They wiped it off and installed Ubuntu. That's all they know. So they know Ubuntu works. Yeah. It's a little different, obviously, for those of us that are Linux enthusiasts. Obviously, there's a much higher percentage of us that care about these things. As far as the philosophy, the political ideology behind free software. Yeah, so actually, I hadn't thought about that. This is a great comment here by Mark. Could you make a hyper and meh variable at the top of the config? That's not a bad idea. That way, it's just one line for you guys that pull down my configs to change. You're not going to have a hyper key, so you just change it to something else. Yeah. So, that could work. I don't know. Like I said, I just know what I was going to do originally probably wasn't going to be good for you guys as far as sharing my configs. So I'm going to give it some thought. Not a lot of thought. 2 or 3 days. I'm going to think on it. I'm still kind of deciding exactly what I want to do. Probably before this week ends, I'm going to go ahead and have something worked out. I'm going to push the awesome config to my GitLab. I'll let you guys know. Probably make a video about it. And of course, it's going to change all my configs in Xmonad, Qtile. I'm going to change the key bindings and all of those too. Because none of those key bindings are going to work anymore on my ErgoDox. So I've got to change the config to all those tiling window manager configs. But I'm going to make all the configs the same. The key bindings are always going to be the same on them. I try to stay consistent that way. Especially since I switch between window managers. I'll log into Xmonad one day and DWM the next. I don't want different key bindings depending on the window manager. I want them all to be consistent. Yeah, Mr. GFY says when he used Triskel is one of the FSF approved distros, the Free Software Foundation approved distros. He says he didn't have any problems using only free software. Yeah, the big problem with using for only free software, like one of the FSF distros, is if you have an NVIDIA card, you probably want to use the proprietary drivers. Yes, there's open source drivers, they kind of suck. The other thing is, if you're using one of those distros on a laptop, there's still a lot of Wi-Fi chips out there that do not have a free driver. So you do need to double check your hardware, especially if you have a laptop, before you decide to run something like Triskel. Because if there's not a free driver, you can't run that distro. You're never going to have Wi-Fi, right? If there's not a driver available for it. So, unless, of course, you go out of your way to find the proprietary driver, in which case, why are you installing Triskel anyway? You should have just installed Ubuntu. Yeah, John says, I love Solus until I installed it on a work computer. Docked, and it couldn't figure out dual monitors. So it's a laptop, you docked it, it couldn't figure out dual monitors. Solus? I ran Solus for a little while on my main production machine here, which you guys can see is triple monitors, and I had no problem, but of course, it wasn't a laptop where I was connecting monitors to a laptop. I ran Solus on one of my laptops, actually, for about 3 months. I found Solus to be actually quite usable. The repos are not that big, though, with Solus. That was my only complaint. If I could find all the software I like to use in the repos, I probably would have stayed on Solus, but, it was missing some obvious things, like, was Xmonad in the repos? I think Xmonad was in the repos. Xmobar, the bar you need to use with Xmonad, the bar 95% of Xmonad users use with Xmonad, was not in the Solus repos. Now, of course, you can build it yourself, or you can install it with Cabal or something else, but it's just an example. That's a program, Xmobar. is like in every Linux distribution's repos, except Solus. Or at least it was a year ago. It may be in there now. But I found a lot of things that you would just think would be in the repos that weren't in Solus's repos. Void Linux. You know, I played around with Void Linux a little bit. Void's repos are bigger than Solus's. So, and that should tell you, you know, how small the repos are with Solus. Yeah, I'm using Triskel on an Asus laptop. It's Mr. GFY. Okay. Yeah, John says Solus worked awesome on my desktop. Yeah, I had no problems with it. Like I said, some of the software I wanted wasn't in the repos. And obviously I use tiling window managers and a lot of terminal-based applications. A lot of these programs are not in the Arch repos either. A lot of these are in the Arch user repository, the community repository. But I don't think Solus has anything like that. So it's not in the standard Solus repos. You got to build it yourself. Yeah, I'm new to Linux too, so trying to add a custom resolution with a proprietary driver through terminal was a cannonball into the deep end. Okay. Chris Killing is asking me, have I looked at Puppy Linux? Have I ever done anything with Puppy Linux on the channel? I don't think I have. I know I looked at the derivative of Puppy called Fat Dog. I know we took a look at that at one point, but I don't think I've ever done anything with just the standard Puppy Linux. No, I don't think I have, Chris. Might be something I need to rectify soon. Take a look at Puppy. Oh, yeah, in the IRC chat. Yeah, Marlon was asking me, how do I set up my dot files? Do you just copy everything to their places or something? If you're asking about, like when you grab it from GitLab, say on a fresh install, yeah, typically, it's only one time you do it anyway on a new install. It's best, instead of trying to have some script or some program, try to place all the files in their correct place, maybe symlink or anything. Yeah, just what I do is I just pull down, or git clone, my entire dot files repository, and then I'll manually place all the configs exactly where they need to be. It's not that many files anyway. Obviously, I could just write a shell script, maybe, and to take care of all that as well. But it's not complicated. I mean, it's not that big of a deal as far as the new installs. As far as on a daily basis, just pushing to GitLab, yeah, I just push everything exactly where they're at in the directory structure. It's the exact same directory structure on GitLab. So if I'm pushing my awesome config file, which is the rc.lua, which is in .config/awesome/rc.lua. It's going to be in that exact same directory over on GitLab. In my .files repository, it's going to be in .config/awesome/rc.lua. It's the exact same path. That's the way I do it. Some people don't do that. They'll just stick all their config files in like one directory instead of keeping the directory structure the same. I like keeping the directory structure exactly the same, especially for newer to Linux users, or maybe you don't know anything about Awesome Window Manager or Qtile or what have you. You may not know where that config file is supposed to go, but if I keep the config path exactly the same, it's pretty self-explanatory where you need to put that file. Yeah, so Andrew Palm is in the chat. How you doing, Andrew? Yeah, your Ubuntu Monte is still running great. I see. Yeah, it works very well on your family computer. Very smooth install, no problems at all. Yeah, Ubuntu Monte seems to be like the most popular Ubuntu variant out there. Maybe other than the mainline edition, of course. A lot of people love the Monte. Tuckstop is asking me, DT, how is your new Ryzen coming along? Still screaming fast. So, the Threadripper is the best purchase I ever made. I'm just going to say that. Yeah. Having a nice CPU solves a lot of problems. A lot of problems. So obviously compile times are a lot faster, render times a lot faster, life's a lot better. What's a good IRC client for Linux? Not a terminal app, says Amiga Guide. So if you don't want a terminal IRC client, there's a ton of graphical ones. HexChat is the most popular by far. It's in everybody's repos. HexChat. If you happen to be running Plasma, Conversation with a K is probably already installed. If it's not, install Conversation. It's great too. Yeah, Rocco, Big Daddy Linux says hi. How you doing, Rocco? Yeah, real men wear pink. Yeah, this is my workout shirt from earlier. It's actually, I don't know if you guys, well, the camera froze again. I guess the camera didn't want me to share my shirt. Oh my goodness, what is causing the problems here? It's going to be one of those live streams. It's just a train wreck. Anyway, it's an Anytime Fitness shirt. And for Breast Care Awareness Month or whatever, I bought a shirt. It's, I think last year, what it was, February. Yeah, DT. Hey, I'm having one issue customizing Grub with Grub Customizer, and I can't get the image resolution correct. That was Mr. GFY having a problem with his Grub. Yeah, I missed some of the chat here. I'm trying to catch up on the chat here. Yeah, John is asking, so DT, how's the new job? Fine. Yeah, and obviously my camera. Well, it was going fine there for a second, and then all of a sudden the camera is just not cooperating. Yeah, the new job though. Yeah, it's a job. Yeah, it's like blame the Threadripper. No, I don't. This is not a hardware problem. I don't think. I think it's a software problem. Maybe the next time I do a stream, I'll change the encoder in OBS. I know it's not the USB port that the camera's plugged into too. I have changed the port, the plug I plug into, so I know it's not that problem. Also, before anybody asks, it's plugged into a USB 3 port, which is what it needs. If I plugged into a USB 2 port, it would make sense why I would be having some issues. Yeah, so Tuckstop says, DT, great to hear. After many years on Arch, XFCE, and i3, I tried Ubuntu 1904 and am blown away. Tremendous improvement in GNOME, I agree. I would agree with that. Ubuntu 1904 GNOME, you guys know I'm not a fan of GNOME at all. It didn't suck, right? It didn't suck. Okay, so we got a comedian here in the IRC chat. DT, if you read this, you have been gnomed. Have you tried Spacemax, DT? I've started using it. It's pretty damn great. I have not tried Spacemax because it really doesn't make any sense for me to try Emacs with Spacemax, which is just basically mimics Vim. Why wouldn't I just stay on Vim? And Noobzilla, he says he's bloated. And they have medications for that. All right. So Broker Fox, yeah, my first distro was Ubuntu. I really didn't care for GNOME either. Yeah, I didn't care for GNOME when I first tried Ubuntu about 11, 12 years ago. But that was GNOME 2, completely different desktop environment. But I didn't like the old GNOME 2 desktop. I didn't stay on that very long at all. I quickly found OpenBox. Yeah, I was one of those kind of users. So I found OpenBox, and then just a few months after I found OpenBox, I found Xmonad, which you can imagine. I mean, probably not even a year on Linux. And I was on Xmonad. And that was a struggle, especially back then. I didn't obviously have as much knowledge about Linux or scripting, writing config files. Certainly didn't know anything about Haskell. That was a struggle. But it was fun. You know, I enjoyed it. And then just kept window manager hopping basically ever since. Went back to OpenBox after that. Then I found Awesome. Then I went back to OpenBox. Then I found Qtile. Then I went back to OpenBox. Seems like I keep going back to OpenBox a lot, or at least that's always been the pattern. Yeah, Ben Fitzpatrick and Rocco, Big Daddy Linux, both say they didn't hate Windows Vista. Well, I'll leave that one alone. I didn't spend any time with Vista myself, so I really shouldn't talk. The last Windows I lived in was Windows XP, so I never got to experience the glorious Windows Vista. Yeah, DT, will you try the Windows 10 distro when it comes out? If they ever release a Windows Linux distro, I will definitely check it out. Yeah, Telsera says he didn't hate Windows Vista, but he understands why people hated it. Well, it was buggy, wasn't it? That was the main reason people hated it. Hardware requirements, it was kind of a step up. I mean, compared to XP, it was a step up for that. Some people's machines just didn't run it well. I mean, that was a big complaint. You got to understand, XP was out so long, too. Those early years of XP, I mean, people still were running XP on 256 megs of RAM. Yeah, I'm using Manjaro OpenBox. What do you think about this distro? I've checked it out, the OpenBox community distro of Manjaro. It's not bad. I like Manjaro and I like OpenBox, so yeah, it wasn't bad. As far as some of the best OpenBox distros I tried, as far as I liked what they did with their OpenBox configs, I really liked Crunchbang++ when I tried it out. You know, like a year and a half ago. It's been a while since I checked that out, but great distro. Arch Labs does a really nice OpenBox edition. Bunsen Labs is also not bad. Maybox was great too, but I was kind of concerned Maybox has been discontinued because they hadn't had a release in like 2 years. But Ansem in the chat it pointed out, yeah, Maybox just had a release. So it seemed like it was a dead project, but they did have a release, I don't know, a month or two ago, it seems. Maybe a little longer than that. The ISO's not too old for Maybox, though. Yeah, Florian, you're using Manjaro i3 right now, and it's pretty cool, yeah. Of course, that's the distro I ran for about a year on my last machine. It started life as Manjaro i3. Even though most of the time I ran it, I wasn't running i3. That was just what I installed. I installed Manjaro i3 and then put Qtile on it. That's what I ran for most of that time, was Qtile. And then eventually I installed Xmonad and DWM and everything else on it. Yeah, John loves the color theme in Manjaro i3. Yeah, it's kind of like the Adapta color scheme in Manjaro i3. The Adapta color scheme for a tiling window manager, basically. Yeah, it's pretty neat. Yeah, so in the IRC chat, is that Garafel? At the moment, running custom Emacs config, but using the SpaceMax theme. Yeah. And Marlin, Systemd was giving me trouble with libvirt, getting stuck on powering off. That seems to be a common issue with Systemd sometimes. Yeah, he's having problem with sysvia init as well. It's having issues getting stuck on a service on a init 1. Or excuse me, init 2. Okay. Yeah, but Python is slow. Yeah, somebody else. Python is bloat. Yeah. That's what most people are going to tell you. Again, it's kind of the right tool for the right job. I mean, what are you using Python for? I mean, most people just use it for some simple scripting, but yeah. For that, it's just fine. Actually works well in a window manager with Qtile. No sluggishness at all in Qtile. Works just as fast as Xmonad or Awesome. Yeah, one of you guys in the IRC chat was asking, hey DT, are you still using the Awesome window manager? Yeah. What was your experience with ErbSloof? Yeah, I didn't do much with ErbSloof. I mean, I lived in it, but I didn't put anything on camera. That's because I installed ErbSloof, lived in it for about a month, and it kind of worked well with the default config. That's why I didn't share too much with you guys. What you saw is pretty much all I ever did with it, and then I knew I was getting a new computer. Then I got the new computer. Yeah, I just never got around to putting ErbSloof again on camera anywhere. But you know what? We're going to revisit all these window managers again. I'm going to do some more stuff with ErbSloof, even though I haven't done that much on camera with Awesome. You know, obviously I'm living in Awesome. The point here is for me to get kind of familiar with these window managers, kind of customize them to my liking, put them all on GitLab. And once I've reviewed about 7 or 8 of these myself, what I would like to do is basically do some kind of comparison video on all these. This is going to be a big project, doing a comparison of 7 or 8 different tiling window managers. It's going to be obviously a lengthy video, and it would be very involved. Especially, how do you describe to somebody maybe that doesn't know anything about tiling window managers how they differ, right? So we're going to have to go into a little bit of backstory. You know, what is a tiling window manager? What's the difference between, you know, your tree-based and list-based tiling window managers? What's the difference between, you know, the dynamic tilers and the manual tilers? The two differences in how they handle multi-monitors. You know, the standard way, well, I say the standard way, with something like Xmonad and Qtile, where all your workspaces are shared amongst your monitors, or the Awesome window manager way, i3 way, where each monitor has its own set of workspaces. You know, you got to explain all of that first, and then get into how basically each one falls into those categories. Not to mention the programming languages they're written in. Like, it would be an involved video. And it's something I kind of wanted to do here lately, especially now that I've kind of taken a look at, you know, half a dozen of these tiling window managers. So I want to take a look at, obviously I'm on Awesome. I want to do BSPWM next. And then, of course, revisit them all after that. All the 7 or 8 that I've been on. You know, maybe do some kind of, again, comparison video of them all. Or maybe a set of videos on them. I don't know. Depending on how deep I want to go into that. Hey DT, do you have any interest in Lisp? I do not. Guess if I really wanted to get into something like eLisp, you know, I should just switch to Emacs. That way I can go ahead and start writing my Emacs configs. I'm not switching to Emacs though before any of you guys jump on that. So, yeah, hair is bloat. I agree. Hair is kind of bloat. You don't really need it. Kind of gets in the way. Serves no real purpose. Why are hibernate and suspend even a thing? Yeah, that's, you know, you make a good point about that too. I don't use them. Yeah, I don't. I've never wanted to hibernate my laptops or anything. Yeah, I turn all that off anyway if it's activated. Yeah, to waste battery on laptops, yeah. But I'm the kind of person, yeah, I'll just, if my laptop is not plugged in, I'm somewhere and I have my laptop's not running unless I'm doing something on it, right? It's not like I just leave my laptop just running. Obviously that laptop behind me is just running. It's plugged in right now though. But like if I take a trip and I'm in a hotel room or something, I have a laptop and I don't have it plugged into a power source. Yeah, it's not like I just turn the laptop on and then, you know, go out for dinner or something. You know, I turn it off when I'm done. Yeah, Hibernate was good when the OS took 5 minutes to boot. Yeah. 5 minutes to boot. Which version of Windows was that? And I know it wasn't a version of Linux that took that long to boot. Yeah, John Euler says Emacs is bloat for sure. Emacs could be considered bloated for sure. Emacs is one of those things that probably does too much. Well, Emacs, a lot of people like to say Emacs is a text editor. Emacs is not a text editor. Matter of fact, I wouldn't say it's even a good text editor. Vim's a fantastic text editor, but Emacs, or like you have to configure it in such a way to make it a good text editor, but Emacs is really an operating system. Its own operating environment, right? It's got its own window manager, it's got its own shell, it's got its own Git client, it's got games, it's got an email client. Like Emacs is a total operating system. And in that aspect, I would say that is definitely bloat. Because to run Emacs, obviously you already booted into an operating system. Then you're loading another one, if we're calling Emacs an operating system, on top of an existing operating system. So yeah, I would say Emacs probably meets the definition for bloat, what most people consider, as bloat. That's not taking anything away from Emacs, as far as I'm sure it's a fantastic program. The people that use it love it. Yeah, Garafel says Emacs is definitely bloated, but if you install Vim into it, it's pretty good. But then why did you install Emacs? I mean, for all the other stuff? Yeah, that's strange. Yeah, do you use Mutt for your email client? Yeah, I do. I use NeoMutt. If I just go to my desktop here, let's see. I don't have a hotkey, but yeah, if I just type NeoMutt, assuming I can type correctly here. Yeah, this is my NeoMutt here. I just yeah, so NeoMutt's great. I do have Geary for a graphical email client too. And I use both of them. It's like, why do you have two email clients? It's because I would like just to use NeoMutt all the time for a terminal-based email client, but way too many people send HTML emails. So it kind of helps to have a graphical email client around. Now, obviously, like you guys, when you guys email me, we're usually just sending plain text. You guys are probably not going out of your way to make a HTML email and putting images in it and all that. But I get emails, like notifications from things like Mastodon, Patreon. Anytime somebody messages me on Patreon, all them things come to me as HTML emails, and I just can't read them in NeoMutt. So those things, I'll open up Geary to read the email message. Yeah, Bob Grimes, what is the beer of choice tonight? Nothing special. This is just your cheap American swill. It's a Bud Light. I'm actually rather disappointed in myself for drinking it. Not something I would normally drink. I had a fantastic beer that I had never had before the other night. I saw it at one of my local stores. They have a really nice selection of imported beers. And it was a beer from China called Lucky Buddha. And the bottles are these green bottles that are a fat Buddha. And that thing was great. If you guys find Lucky Buddha, check it out. It wasn't cheap. Here in Louisiana anyway, it was like $12, $13. I think I paid for that 6-pack. But again, I like trying different things. I'm always drinking something different as far as a beer, because I'm kind of a beer enthusiast, right? I like trying different beers from all over the world. I like trying different beers I've never had. And I'd never seen this Lucky Buddha beer. But it was really good. So you guys happen to find it, yeah, check it out. Yeah, Mitchell says, yeah, Lucky Buddha. I remember this when I was working in China. It's great. Yeah, I was really impressed with it. Yeah, Bob Grimes says his favorite is Shiner Bock from Texas. Yeah, made in Shiner, Texas. Yeah, Shiner Bock's not bad. Yeah, and some was it Deschutes? I don't know. Fresh squeezed IPA. Okay. I don't know that one. Alex is agreeing that Shiner is great. Yeah. The only US beer I can get is way too light for my taste. Yeah. That's a mega god. Yeah, most American beers are kind of light beers. Now, the typical, like, popular beers are light beers. Now, obviously, here in the U.S., we have a ton of microbreweries. IPAs, especially, are a big thing. Stouts and porters, a lot of the hoppy beers. But depending on what part of the world you're in, yeah, you may not see a lot of the microbreweries beers from the U.S. because, again, it's a microbrewery. They don't brew a lot. They don't have a big distribution area. So you're probably getting, again, the cheap American swill that, yeah. Yeah, you may also want to try out Tsingtao. I have tried. It's not bad either. Lucky Buddha's quite a bit better than Tsingtao, though. Yeah, Yingling Black and Tan was always my favorite. Yeah, we had that actually last night. I didn't live stream last night, unfortunately, though. But yeah, I did pick up a six-pack of the Black and Tan. It is not bad. You're right. Yingling, all the Yingling beers are pretty good. I wouldn't say they're great beers, but the Black and Tan one is probably the best of the bunch. Yeah, and I'm in Denver. I have all the beers I could possibly choose. Yeah, you're in the right part of the country. A lot of the microbreweries are, of course, out west, so. Check out the IRC chat for just a second. Yeah, Emacs is an IDE. Evil is what makes Emacs have a good text editor. And Marlon, there is a Emacs window manager for X. Yeah, that's what people tell me. DT, grow a beard. There are some stuff that Emacs do that Vim doesn't, I guess. Yeah, does it really, though? I mean, that's what people say. I don't know. Vim would need some layers of bloat to do what Emacs does. Well, if you're counting, like, the stuff you really don't need. I mean, I don't need an email client in Vim. Oh, I don't need a Tetris game in Vim, like people do in Emacs. So, yeah, I use Evil Mode with Emacs. I mostly like Emacs for the Lisp configuration, yeah. Yeah, Evan is... Wait a second, DT, you live in Louisiana too. That is correct. I am in Louisiana. Wow, Mr. GFY, 211 and a terminal all day. I really hope that you're drinking something better than 211, Mr. GFY. That cheap malt liquor gonna lead to an early grave. I have too much respect for my liver to feed it 211. Yeah, Big Pod. DT, try Union or Lasco from Slovenia. They are the best beers I've ever drank, and I've tried many European and some American beers. I so hate Corona. Corona is not horrible. If you're talking about like the Corona Especial, if you want a little bit of a darker Corona, the Corona Familiar is pretty good. I wouldn't say they're like great beers, not award-winning beers, but they're not bad. But I will try to take a... I'll be on the lookout for Union and Lasco. Okay. Mr. GFY, I like malt liquor. Okay, well. If you enjoy it. Yeah. Hey, DT. How's the new job? By the way, I don't like Corona. Well, that seems to be the opinion of you guys in the chat. Corona is not good, huh? Well, here's the thing. Like when you go to a restaurant, you're not going to have a big selection of like imported beers, certainly no microbrew beers usually, at typical restaurants. Now, bars maybe. So what's the best beer you're going to get at a typical, big chain restaurant? Well, other than the stuff I don't want to drink, Bud Light, Miller Lite, all that crap. Typically, they're going to have Corona and or Heineken. So, of those two, I prefer Corona. I'll drink a Heineken. But again, I don't consider those great beers, but considering what else, the alternatives, most of the time, yeah, Corona. Yeah, Corona and lime is good on a hot day. Some of this also has to do where you live. You know, obviously, where I live, it gets very, very hot. It's already very warm here. Here at the end of May, you know, it's 90 degrees every day already. It's going to be over 100 degrees Fahrenheit every day for the next 3 months, probably. And yeah, you're not going to drink an IPA. It's just not going to happen. You know, you come in, you're hot, you're sweaty, and if you wanted to drink a beer, what do you want? You want something light, refreshing, something like a Corona, for example. Big Pod says Heineken is good if you never drink Union. Okay. Yeah, Heineken's okay. Dustin Morse, yeah, bourbon is nice with no ice. You guys that are into drinking hard liquor, I can tell, I used to work in this industry. I used to actually manage a rather large wine and liquor and tobacco shop. And the proper way to drink whiskey, or any hard liquor, but especially something like whiskey, if you're drinking the nice stuff, you're drinking a good bourbon or a good glass of scotch, do not add ice to it. It actually does affect the flavor in a negative way. You don't want it cold. Drink it at room temperature. If you want to water it down, that's okay. Just add a teaspoon or 2 teaspoons of water to the glass to water it down, you know, to get that alcohol content a little lower if it's too strong for you. Don't add ice. Ice is a no-no. All you need to do is pour you that glass of scotch or that glass of bourbon, you know, a couple of fingerfuls in a glass. Add a little water if you want to. Let it sit a minute. Let it breathe just for a minute or two. Then drink it. Pro tip. Mr. GFY, a good 7-year scotch. 7-year scotch, nothing touches these lips other than an 18-year. Of course, I kid. Sometimes I do drink 15-year Glenlivet. The 18-year Glenfiddich, though, that's some good stuff. Yeah, great pro tip, yeah. I mean, if you're going to go to the trouble of buying something nice to drink, because I used to see people buy this really expensive liquor and, you know, do weird things to it. I'm going to put it in a glass, I'm going to put some ice in it, and then I'm going to splash some Coca-Cola on it. It's like, no, you don't buy a fifth of bourbon that costs $80 and then throw Coke on it and throw a cube of ice in it. That's not what you do. If you wanted to do that, you should have just bought a fifth of Evan Williams and saved you, you know, about $70. Yeah, Mr. GFY, you used to mix scotch and coffee. Yeah, that's not unusual. Some people will splash a little whiskey in their coffee. Yeah, brown liquor is nasty, yeah. Some people would say so. That's typically what I like. I like stuff that's been aged in a barrel. So whiskeys, some of the aged tequilas, rum, brandy. Yeah, Johnny Walker Double Black is a decent, cheap scotch. Yeah, it's not bad, actually. The Johnny Walker Black is not bad either. But the Double Black, yeah. Yeah, you like the peated whiskeys, says Ansem. Yeah, so now we're getting into some of the peated whiskeys from Scotland. What Ansem is talking about there is peat moss that grows, you know, on the ground, and they build these peat fires, and then they smoke. Basically, they dry out the barley with these peat fires, and it gives this barley and the whiskey that's distilled from it this really smoky flavor, intense smoky flavor sometimes. And that is a very acquired taste as well. There are a lot of whiskey drinkers that love whiskey that really can't handle those peated whiskeys. I don't mind them too much, but again, a lot of people, it's not their thing. Yeah, and sometimes I drink some scotch or whiskey, yeah. I don't drink hard liquor very often. A few times a year, half a dozen times a year. Typically, yeah, beer most of the time. Sometimes I'll open up a bottle of wine maybe once a month. Hard liquor, I'll buy like a nice bottle of bourbon or a nice bottle of scotch or something, you know, for holidays to have with the family or something. But yeah, talking all that good booze and sipping on a bud, yeah. I know. I should run to the store after the stream is over. Telser says, I can't say what I do every day after work. It's not legal in every state. You smoking that wacky tobacco? I'm going to get demonetized. Wow. Yeah, drinking bullet bourbon. Bullet bourbon is great too, yeah. Bullet bourbon will not get me demonetized like the guy that says he smokes that El Fuego every day. Yeah, it looks like some of the chat has died out here in the IRC channel. Yeah, that wacky tobacco, yep. Yeah, I don't know nothing about that stuff. Russell's is also really good. You're right, John. Russell's Reserve, with their 6-year reserve, is it's not bad. For the price, you really can't beat it. Ben says wacky tobacco. OMG. Yeah, but you knew what I was talking about, didn't you, Ben? Alright, guys. Well, we'll kill the stream here in a couple more minutes. You guys got anything else you want to get in? Say it in the next couple of minutes so we can get it recorded on YouTube. We're going to shut it down for the evening. Yeah. It's called the Devil's Lettuce. Yeah. What other names do you have for the wacky tobacco? What other colorful names? Of course, I called it the El Fuego, which of course is just Spanish for the fire. It makes no sense smoking that El Fuego. Yeah, Nerifum. I use Arch, by the way. Yeah, never heard that before. And Florian says, damn, it's morning here, but I feel like opening a bottle now. Yeah, go for it. It's never too early. You know what they say. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. Yeah, time to get roasted. Yeah. What about Fireball? Yeah, you can keep that Fireball. Don't want any part of that. Handsome. He uses Ubuntu, by the way. A strong and respectable decision as well. Mary Jane. Oh, of course, the classic. Mary Jane. Yeah, Hoystein says, see you guys. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and kill the stream now. The camera situation settled down the longer I streamed. I don't know what was the problem earlier. But the video format obviously was not the problem. I think Big Pod may have been on to something there. We may need to change encoders next time. You know what? I might stream more than usual this week. I may try to squeeze in another stream or maybe another 2 streams in this week. Because I'd like to kind of get this camera situation straightened out and see what the problem is. So maybe, I don't know. Not making any promises, but I might do one tomorrow at some point. Maybe not a 2-hour one, but maybe stream for at least an hour or something and just see if trying a different encoder maybe works. See how the Threadripper handles encoding if I just do the hardware encoding. We just see how streaming just the CPU. So I'm pretty sure the Threadripper would handle it, but I don't know. Until we put it to the test, it's hard to say. Yeah, Garafil, thanks for the stream, DT. I appreciate you. Mitchell, thanks. Yeah, I want to thank all you guys, actually, for hanging out. Like I said, I didn't give you guys much heads up, just a couple hours notice. You know, I felt like doing something this evening. Yeah, bet the Threadripper wouldn't even notice. I wouldn't think it would. Because when I did that video with the 6 flavors of 1904, the various versions of Ubuntu 1904, I ran 6 VMs at the same time while recording everything in OBS. And I don't think the Threadripper ever pushed more than about 30% total CPU. Now that's not streaming, but still, that's a pretty good test. Yeah, Ben says this was a fun stream. Thanks, Ben. Yeah, thanks. This was great stuff. Looking forward to follow your ErgoDox journey. So am I. And I'm actually surprised so many of you guys are actually interested in the ErgoDox. I wasn't thinking too many people would be that interested when I got the keyboard. I mean, I wanted it. But a lot of you guys were like, man, I've been looking at that keyboard too, but I'm kind of scared to pull the trigger on one. I mean, it took me a few months to make that decision too. So you guys that are thinking about buying one, yeah, I'm going to keep you guys updated. Probably every couple of weeks, at least for the first couple of months, I'll probably update you guys. Maybe in a couple of weeks, show you what I've done as far as the layout I finally settled on, you know, all my key bindings for the tiling window managers and whatnot. Maybe, you know, after a couple of months, you know, give a real opinion, you know, after getting really comfortable with the keyboard, how I'm doing with it. Of course, now that the CEO, I mentioned the CEO for the ErgoDox company, has emailed me, you know, he was happy that I did the video, and, well, we conversed a little bit. He's given me some tips about things, but now that I've got his email address, he doesn't mind me emailing him, so might pick his brain on some stuff, too. Yeah, you guys are nerds, says Mr. GFY. Okay. Yeah, what do the kids say, though? Takes one to know one. Yeah, that's what Big Pod, look who is talking. Is it hot in Texas? I'm sure it is. It's hot here in Louisiana, so it's the same temperature. So it's a little more humid here, though, so the heat index can get kind of brutal. Alright, guys, well, let me go ahead and kill the stream. Of course, before I go here, let me thank these guys. The show made possible by Ansem, Chris, the other Chris, Douglas, Dylan, Jack, Leor, Philip, Rob, Robert, Tony, the producers of the show, highest tiered patrons over on Patreon. Those guys rock. Those guys make all of this possible. Also, all those names you see on the screen that help support me over on Patreon. I want to sincerely thank each and every one of those guys, and all you guys still hanging out in the chat. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you. Oh, I forgot. Peace.